This is WOMMLP operating out of Burlington, Vermont, 105.9 The Radiator. Good evening, it is The Rocket Shop. I'm your host, Tom Proctor, and with me tonight is Audrey Pearl. Hello.
Hello.
How are we doing tonight?
So good. How are you?
Very well, a little out of breath. Had to rush here, which is why we're on a little bit late. But we've started now at least, and we like kicking it off with a song, so what have you got for us?
I'll start off with an original, well, I guess they're all original songs, aren't they? I'll start out with a song of mine called Never Go Back. I wrote it after I was sent home for my first year of college because of COVID.
All right. Take it away.
Cool.
I thought that winter'd last forever. Skidding tires on empty streets. Cursing at the shitty drivers, leaving me behind in the biting cold with broken heat. And I replayed the way it ended, with Andy singing in my ear. But all his words have shifted meanings and left me feeling like you've gone and disappeared. You knew me so well for just a minute of my life. I can never go back, never go back, never go back now. I haven't seen you in a minute. Can you feel me changing, or are you still the same? I can never go back, never go back. I can never go back, never go back. I can never go back, never go back now. I've tried to find you on a map. You were just too small to see. I've walked around for miles trying to piece it all together. Never found my way to Houston Street. 'Cause there's no blue house on the corner, and no one's scratching at my door. I've settled where it's warmer. I wish you could see me. I am more steady than before. You knew me so well for just a minute of my life. I can never go back, never go back, never go back now. I haven't seen you in a minute. Can you feel me changing, or are you still the same? I can never go back, never go back. I can never go back, never go back. I can never go back, never go back now. I needed something to miss, that's why I held on tighter. But I've grown out of this, I'll never go back now. I needed something to miss, that's why I held on tighter. But I've grown out of this, I'll never go back now. I can never go back, never go back. I can never go back, never go back. I can never go back, never go back now.
All right, Audrey Pearl there with Never Go Back. So, tell us what happened after COVID hit. You know, you went back, got to go home, and then obviously wrote this song. Did you eventually go back to college? What happened? Did you ever meet this guy again? Or lady, or person, or whomever?
So it's really, for me, even though I'm singing like to you, for me it's about the place and the whole experience there. I actually went to my first year of college on this tiny island in the Atlantic, Prince Edward Island. I mean, it's a whole province, but like small island. But I always intended to transfer after 1 year. It was like get that cheap Canadian tuition and then transfer to Berkeley, which was my dream school. So I did end up transferring to Berkeley and finishing college with a long hiatus in the middle.
All right. So, did you ever go back? I mean, obviously you say never go back, but did you ever return to that small island? Did you
I
ever?
have not.
No.
No,
Is there ever plans to?
never.
All right. That's gone now. Literally just moving forward from now
Well,
on.
I have a lot of nostalgia for it. But what I've realized, and it took me years to write this song, I always, would listen to certain albums and be like, oh man, like I wish I could go back. But I think what I was yearning for more is that time in my life of just starting college and sort of the innocence that we all had before a global pandemic. But even if I went back to that physical place, I'd never be with the same exact group of people again in the same part of my life. So in that way, I can never go back.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of the Herodotus, never step in the same river twice kind of thing.
Exactly.
You've mentioned that you're a storyteller. Obviously, that comes through very clearly with that first song.
Oh, I'm glad.
Do you feel that you focus on the same genre of stories? Are all these stories about you, for instance? Are they all about romance or like places in your life? Or do you bring in a little bit of fantasy, or is there kind of singing about other people's stories?
It's definitely a combination. I think there has to be some sort of like seed of truth in any song that I personally relate to, or else I wouldn't feel honest writing the song. But a lot of times it's like a feeling that I'm experiencing, but I'm writing about someone else's story. I'll play a song like that next, actually, probably. But yeah, I'd say like a common thread tends to be nostalgia, but in a lot of different forms. It can be romantic, it can be friendships, about family, about a lot about mental health.
Do you feel that writing these stories helps you process some of these feelings of nostalgia, of these pangs who want to, return?
Absolutely. A lot of times I think I'll sit down and just start writing a song and I won't really even know exactly what it's about. I'll just like have a lot of feelings and like I'll just sit down and like word vomit. And then after I've written the song, as I'm playing it, I'm like, oh, I guess I was feeling that way. And it's definitely really good. Sorry, little cough here. Cathartic like that.
Has there ever been a situation where you start writing and not knowing that you're actually upset with someone or missing something, and then as you're writing, like, oh, wait a second, this is actually about this person or this place? Maybe previously you were trying to write about something else, and then
Definitely
start bringing out these feelings.
Yeah, I went to school for songwriting, and a lot of times we'd have like a prompt in class, and it would be like, write about a central metaphor. And so I'd have this metaphor and not really have something to anchor it in, like not know exactly what I was writing about, but I'd finish and be like, wow, I guess I was really missing that person, because a lot of the lyrics go back to that. Or
Yeah.
yeah.
You mentioned that you went to Berkeley for songwriting specifically, but you also grew up in Vermont, that's correct?
Yes.
Which do you feel has had a bigger influence in terms of the way you write songs? Because to me, you got this very strong kind of like woodswoman kind of sound to you, which sounds very kind of in the Green Mountains kind of way. But obviously, you went to school for this. This is something you literally for 4 years focused on. I can imagine that had a huge, tremendous influence on you. So yeah, where do you feel like through your own history you getting the most influence in your songwriting?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think like every song is sort of like a reflection of who you are, and in that way I think Vermont and growing up here has been the biggest influence on who I am and the reason why I write, just because it's such an inspiring place to grow up. I mean, I would just run around in the woods in my backyard and had a huge imagination and loved to read, and so I think if I didn't grow up here, I probably would be a writer, but I'd be a different writer. Whereas I think music school was more like a tool set and how to like hone and sort of like carve out a more focused skill set than what I had before. But
yeah, did you feel there was many parallels between being in California and being in Vermont? I mean, I know obviously far more Berkeley's in California, right? I need to check
Berkeley, Boston.
Oh, Berkeley, Boston.
Yeah, so there's Berkeley with an EY. That's like the fancy school for smart people in California. And I went to the school for musically smart people in Boston.
Different Berkeley. All right, okay. So at least I was right with Berkeley being in California, just not the correct Berkeley. Well, still New England then.
Yeah.
Did you feel that there was many parallels living in Boston and going to that school that was in Vermont? Or did you feel yourself yearning? Is that why you came back?
Yeah, I think grass is always greener, and wherever I am, I'm like yearning for wherever I was last. Like that island where I went to school. While I was there, I was like, man, I just want to get to Boston. And as soon as I left, I was like, oh, that was really nice. So Boston was a huge change for me. I'd never lived in a city. I mean, I grew up basically in the middle of nowhere. So it was an adjustment for sure, and I really missed having access to nature and being able to just step out in my backyard. But now that I'm back in Vermont, I realize how nice it was to have all my friends live on the same street and the accessibility, and I think I'm not done living in cities yet. So
would you go back to Boston, or are you the sort of person who's like, no, I've checked that one off the list, that has to be somewhere different now? And if so, where would that be?
Maybe in a long time, but like if Berkeley ever wanted to hire me as a songwriting teacher, that would be really cool. But for now, I think I'd rather be in somewhere like New York or Nashville that has like a really flourishing sort of songwriter scene. And Boston had that with the students, but not so much outside of the school. So
yeah.
Maybe
your eyes set on Nashville. Then we've heard a lot of stories of folks going to Nashville, and I've got a good friend myself who is there right now.
Oh,
and
yeah? I've never been. I'd like to visit.
Yeah, I've heard amazing things. I've never been myself, but yeah, obviously big songwriting scene. So you said you went to school for this. This must have been something that you had your heart set on from a young age. How did this come about? Did you start singing and writing songs from an early age?
Yeah, I did. I wrote my first song when I was 8. It was for a friend that I had a crush on, and we would like play Harry Potter and run around the playground, and I wrote this song and sang it to them.
How did they react in a positive way, or were they like, this is a bit weird?
Yeah,
actually?
they were like, this is a little weird. I need some space from you.
Yeah.
But I always loved to write poetry. Even before I sang, I would like write little poems, and I loved to sing, but my parents told me I was basically tone deaf. I was not a good singer, but I would do it anyways. But as I got better at singing, I realized, hey, I can put these two things together and write poems and sing them. And so.
And so when did you first start performing? Because I've seen you do, obviously, gig. I'm assuming you did that at school as well. I'm imagining it was probably encouraged.
Yeah.
What was your first, when did you do your first ever gig? When did you first play to strangers in front of people?
I can't even pinpoint the first time, to be honest. I played at a lot of open mics. In high school, I played with a band. We did sort of like jazz music, and we would go to Radio Bean and Light Club Lamp Shop. And so I think my first real show that I was like, get tickets, come to my show, was probably at Radio Bean.
Yeah? How long ago was that? Because I see you've been putting out singles since 2022. But
yeah. It was right before I went to college. So I was fresh out of high school before I'd released music, and we videotaped the whole thing, and now I look back and I'm like, oh God, but my parents are like, it's great.
Oh, that's really sweet. Did you feel like nervous before you did this, or are you the sort of person that kind of just is a born performer? You need the spotlight on you.
I think I used to get more nervous. I still get really nervous. I get like anticipatory anxiety. Like I'll be driving somewhere and be like, what are all the ways that this could go wrong? But as soon as we're on air, as soon as I'm on stage, it sort of fades away. And I think now I can be a little more in the moment and have fun with it.
I see that you're still playing the likes of Radio Bean. I saw you at Venetian Lounge next week, I think.
This Friday.
This Friday, in fact.
8 p.m. Hope to see you there.
There we go. Is there a particular venue, I mean, either in Vermont or elsewhere, to be honest, that really sticks out for you as like one of your favorite places to perform?
I love playing at Radio Bean. I love playing at Venetian. I have been part of, for the past 2 years, a collective of folk musicians at Club Passim in Cambridge, and that's one of my favorite venues ever. They're just fantastic people, and they have a really like rich community of people that shows up and really listens when you play there. So it's always a blast to perform there. So
you're still going down to Boston fairly regularly then?
Quite a bit.
To do those gigs.
Yeah.
With 3.5 or 4 hours to go to a gig is a fair drive to get to a gig.
Well, it's kind of an excuse for me. Also, I have still friends from college there, and it feels good to get out of Dodge sometimes and take the bus and.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to hear another song. So what have you got for us?
Yeah. Here, let me. All my songs are in different tunings. You're welcome. But this is one of those songs you asked if I sing about just myself or other people. And I started writing this song when I was working at a bakery and I was washing my hands a lot because good hygiene. And my knuckles got really dry and split and started bleeding, and I was like, oh, that's kind of poetic. I had this like line in my notes about bleeding knuckles, and so I started writing about that and ended up writing about Grand Theft Auto.
Naturally.
Yeah, exactly. It's a classic segue. Not the video game, but like the felony. So.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
I did think the video game at first, I guess.
Yeah, important distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah, this song is called Out of Here.
Red sunrise finds him pumping gas out in the cold. He counts the numbers rising, then he pulls the nozzle out and goes. 95 till the center line fades into the road. He's dreaming of Carolina and wishes he was headed home. Headed out of here. Headed out of here. Using his Swiss Army, he cuts Mary from the rear view. He couldn't take the way she was looking at him like she already knew. How he swung the bat, broken glass on the edge of town. How he was reaching through the window, thinking it's too late to turn back now. I'm getting out of here. I'm getting out of here. Knuckles cracked and bloody, tracking mud across the floor. He smooths the crumpled money, moves it slow across the smooth counter. This is all I've got, he says. I know it's not enough to get me there, but it's headed in the right direction, and that's out of here. I'm getting out of here. I'm getting out of here.
All right. Out of Here by Audrey Pearl. So this story is not about anyone maybe in particular. It's kind of a story that you created while being in
Yeah.
the bakery.
Exactly.
I got to ask, why did split knuckles, bloody knuckles, kind of then get to Grand Theft Auto exactly?
I couldn't tell you. I started with the verse about Knuckles cracked and bloody. And I just started like finding rhymes and like word associations, and I ended up with the scene of the guy like sliding the money. I almost like saw it like a movie in my head of him like sliding the money across the counter, and I was like, all right, so what is he paying for? Where is he going? And I sort of worked backwards and wrote the verses backwards from there. And I think it's one of those songs that then when I was playing it, I was like subconsciously maybe some part of me was like, get me out of this situation. I need to quit my job.
I was going to ask what's the kernel of truth in this, but I think you just hit the nail on the head then. Did you end up leaving the bakery?
I did.
Okay, well, c'est la vie to that job.
Do miss the baked goods, but...
I'd imagine the getting up at 4 a.m. or whatever ludicrous time you have to wake up to get.
Yeah, well, I wasn't actually baking. I was just selling the baked goods.
Okay.
So
actually, that's kind of the best outcome, really, in my opinion. Okay, back to the music. But yeah, you've been mostly coming out with singles for the past couple of years. I think the first single I saw on Spotify was 2022. I had an EP come out last year. It now seems like you're making the jump to a full album. So tell us a little bit about the creation of She's Holding My Hand.
Yeah, this song I wrote with a few friends, a producer and his partner and a guitarist who I was friends with. And I only recently started doing more co-writing, and it's been a really exciting experience. For a while I was like, oh, it has to just be my song or else it's not authentic. And in this case, I ended up with something I never could have created totally on my own, and I discovered that I'm capable of writing happy songs and fun songs, because after a while I was like, man, all my songs are downers. I'm trying to put together a set list and it's like, here's another sad one. All right, here's another ballad. So yeah, this one's really fun.
Okay, so She's Holding My Hand is another single, is that correct?
It is a single. It's a standalone. No, it's a single.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there plans for the future to create an album, or are you more of a let's just put out single? I mean, that's what a lot of people do these days, so it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It's hard for me to tell if there's this is what you should do. A lot of people say you should just release singles now. I definitely would like to do longer form projects, but I don't want to do an album for the sake of an album. I definitely want to wait until I feel like I have a body of work that's cohesive and belongs together. Definitely, I think at least a few more EPs before I went for a full-length album, but there may or may not be something in the works.
Do you think you would include previously released singles in an album, or would you have to start from, okay, I've got this novel in my head, and it's a concept album basically.
Yeah.
Or would you include singles that you have released and you felt were cohesive with maybe the rest of the body of the album?
I think a lot of times I'll release a single while I'm also recording other songs and in the process with the intention of them eventually being on the same project. But the singles that I've released thus far, I wouldn't re-release as part of a future project, because even if it's not a concept album, I would want there to be some sense of these were recorded in the same stage of my life, and so they at least have that in common.
Right.
Yeah.
How did you go about thinking when you put the Motions together, which is a 2023 EP? How did that come about? Was that a cohesive EP? Should I say?
I know in the sense that those songs were written throughout my 3 years in Boston. And I didn't ever write them with the intention of them going together. But as I was graduating school and I was I want to put together some sort of body of work that's representative of my time here. And it felt like when I looked at the content of each of those songs that they could sort of be part of a cycle and represent different stages of my journey in college. So
I see.
Yeah.
And so you've hinted that you potentially got something in the works that might be an album. Care to say anything more about that?
Not yet.
Okay. All right.
Only that people should keep an eye out for my upcoming single, She's Holding My Hand, and we'll see.
All right.
Yeah.
So you said you started co-writing, and this was a bit of a leap for you because you saw it maybe as not having your own. It wouldn't be your own work.
Right.
What was that leap of faith? Why did you decide to make that rather than just continue kind of going forward with just writing your own songs?
So in a lot of my songwriting classes, we would be put into co-writing groups and you had to do it for assignments. And I think I went into those skeptical, how are we going to share our ideas? And what if they have an idea that I don't like? And what if they don't like my ideas? And I think it just took practice and getting comfortable. It's a different kind of vulnerability than writing a song by yourself. And so it's when you establish trust with the people you're writing with, I started to realize that you can come up with something that's sort of greater than the sum of its parts. So I think just with practice and with writing with the right people, I started feeling like, oh, this can be genuine to me and still feel like my song, and also mean more to me because these people that I really care about were part of the process.
Do you feel that you need control in other aspects of your songwriting, like in recording, for instance? Are you the sort of person it's a bit of perfectionist maybe and needs to re-record and re-record and re-record until you've got it exactly right?
Yeah, I'm definitely a perfectionist, definitely got a little bit of OCD going on there, but I try to, especially with like production and recording things, it's like if there's someone who obviously knows more about it than me, to relinquish some of that control. But especially when it comes to like my vocals, it's hard for me to let someone else choose which vocal take makes it in, or you know, they might hear something that I think is an imperfection and be like, no, that voice crack, that's what makes it genuine. And I'm like, oh, but it's not perfect. So I try to compromise on those things, but I definitely have the urge to be like, everything has to be perfect.
How's it? What's it like to go into the? Do you record in a recording studio? I think it's probably the first question I should ask here, actually. Or do you record at home?
So I have recorded in some studios. When I was at Berkeley, we had access to the studios there, which I miss now.
Right.
But actually, the stuff that I have coming up, I recorded at my producer's house, in his apartment. So I think now with DAWs and laptops and stuff, it doesn't matter so much being in an actual studio. It was a cool experience, and I'd love to do more of that. But I think more important to me is working with the right people.
I think as a solo performer, and you singer-songwriter with an acoustic guitar, not saying that I know too much about recording, but I will say it's probably a lot easier to do that in a home studio than, say, like, you know, 5-piece band or whatnot.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, where you want to get in the studio is, like, drums, strings, some things you just can't replicate.
How did you meet your producer?
I met him in a class at Berkeley. Yeah, it was a class that it was half producers and half songwriters. And each week we'd have an assignment. They'd give us a brief and they'd pair us in different groups of like 2 writers and 1 producer, or 1 producer, 1 writer, or 2 of each. And we'd have to make a song that week and turn it in the next week. And so it was very intense, but I made a lot of friends in that class.
Not bad. Do they live in Boston still? Is that another reason why you go down quite often?
He moved to Texas.
He moved to Texas?
I know.
So what's the plan going forward? We've
been working remotely, a lot of Zoom sessions.
Yeah.
But I do still have some like friends that I work with in Boston as well. So we'll see. I'm trying to get him to visit Vermont. Like maybe I can lure him over here.
Right. I did notice your album artwork's quite cool, reflective of the kind of music you're making. The new one you've got coming out is this very cool, like 90s-esque collage.
Oh yeah.
Do you create these album covers yourself, and do you very particular about the aesthetics of your record?
So I'm really lucky, and my sibling is an incredible artist, illustrator, designer, and so they've done almost all of my cover art, and they did the upcoming single as well, and it's really special to work with them.
As you said, this new song, which I hope to play today, is more upbeat, very much reflective in that album cover. You kind of mentioned that it was a breath of fresh air for you to be able to write something happy. Has this led to other happy songs being created? Yeah,
a lot of the stuff I'm working on now, not all of it, but a few of them are more upbeat. There's always like the tinge of angst or nostalgia. I think it's hard for me to not include that in a song, but yeah, definitely some more fun ones, some more love songs.
Is that angst, nostalgia? Is that angst, sorry, and nostalgia? Is that kind of a maturity thing? You maybe getting more mature now, and maybe, you know, as elder teenagers and in their 20s, you know, the folks are often melancholy for probably a pretty good reason. And maybe as you get older, you kind of shake those shackles off you. Or is it completely irrelevant in actual fact that you've just become a happier person?
I think there's always something to be nostalgic for, or something to be angsty about, but I think I just decided at a certain point, like I don't want people to only listen to my music when they want to feel sad or wistful. I mean, that definitely feels like really authentic to me, and I love those kinds of music or those kinds of songs that you can just like look out the car window while it's raining and get lost in your thoughts. But I just decided I want to have songs that people can dance to too and have a good time and sing along. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, looking forward to hearing that track. It's actually time for another song. So, what have you got for us?
I think I'll play the most recent single that I released. And I will have to tune up again. I should have done it while we were talking. But I'll explain the song while I tune. So the song is on all streaming platforms. It's called The Time Like This. It's one of my favorite songs I've ever written. And it's about my experience growing up in Vermont and just how lucky I was to have access to so much nature. And in my lifetime, I've seen so much of that be diminished just as they put in a new bank or hotel or parking lot, or it's always something. And so this is sort of about my fear that the next generation that grows up in Vermont and the generation after that won't have the same experience that I did. So, yeah. All right, that sounds okay.
All the trees were cleared last year, and the lake was filled with algae blooming where the oil spilled. Pull your rain boots on, we're hopping gasoline ponds. It sizzles just a little when it hits your skin, and it burns as it's sinking in, and it's sinking in. It's sinking in that you can't be a kid at a time like this. It's almost like we're watching as the end begins, and it's sinking in that you can't be a kid at a time like this. At a time like this. Meet me after school in the midday sun. The sky is paper thin, so we'd better run. I won't be surprised if by the time we get home we've turned red. It sizzles just a little when it hits your skin, and it burns as it's sinking in, and it's sinking in. It's sinking in that you can't be a kid at a time like this. It's almost like we're watching as the end begins, and it's sinking in that you can't be a kid at a time like this. At a time like this. All the trees were cleared last year, and the lake was filled in. They won't stop building till the world they leave their children's made of tar and dust and oil and steel and sediment. And it's sinking in.
A Time Like This by Audrey Pearl. Wow, it's a heavy one.
Yeah, sorry.
It's a very good song. It's
Thank you.
It's Pink Paradise, but for a new generation, I guess. So I do notice you've already been getting a lot of traction on Spotify, which is a fiendishly difficult thing to do in a small market like Vermont.
Yeah.
So many artists come on here which are fantastic, and I am always flabbergasted they're not getting noticed as much as they should be. You do seem to actually be getting the plays, though. I mean, it's always remarkable to see anyone having over not having like less than 1,000 plays
Right.
on Spotify. So tell us a little bit about how you've managed to promote yourself so well, and what is it that you're doing that might be a bit different than other artists around here.
Yeah, I think so much of it is just up to chance. And for all my singles, I've tried my best. I mean, I'm an independent artist doing the self-promotion thing in between school and between working, and you come home and you're like, all right, who can I send this to? What can I do to try to get more people to play it? And at the end of the day, a lot of it feels like it's just up to some nebulous algorithm gods that it's out of our hands. But definitely with this song, I think I felt like it was really important to make sure that people heard it, because I thought that other people my age, and I mean really anyone, would connect to the message of it. So yeah, I sent a lot of cold emails to radio stations, and especially in Vermont, and was like, hey, I grew up here and this is what the song's about. And so it was nice to, like, they played it on WRUV and some of the local stations, and sent it to 7 Days, and I tried to submit to playlisters as best I could. And even then, I mean, I was like, probably won't get a lot of streams, but I noticed that Spotify radio, like one of the algorithmic like functions that just suggest songs to people, sort of picked up on the song, and so I got a lot of streams from that, which I'm grateful for, but I can't pretend to know how, so I don't know that I can replicate it, but I'll try my best.
Wizardry.
Yeah.
You also got quite a lot of plays on one of the songs from your EP. It's called For the Taking. So you got 3,200 streams on that one, or plays on
Really?
that one. Yeah.
Oh, this is news to me.
Yeah. Well, according to the numbers I'm seeing on Spotify.
Wow.
So
Cool.
obviously something's going right on that one. I do notice a lot of artists that do or have been noticed definitely utilize TikTok. Got a fantastic artist called Johanna Rose that now lives down in New Orleans, but she's certainly someone that uses it to great effect.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've tried as well?
Definitely. I do my best, and that's another one where it's like you could spend hours making a video and it gets 20 views, and you could just film something really quick and suddenly it blows up, and it's hard not to get discouraged with it. Every time I post a video, I'm like, what if this was the one that just got a bunch of people to listen to my music? And then it's like, wow. But I definitely think it's worthwhile to try, and definitely with a time like this, I tried my best to do like the once a day posting, and
Right.
it's a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine you've probably got barely any time to actually then sit down and write some songs.
Right. It's like, I don't want to be an influencer. I want
Right.
to write songs. And
Right.
I saw a TikTok that someone made about just how weird it is to be an artist and like self-promote these days. And they were like, can you imagine if like Tom York had to get on TikTok and be like, guys, I made the song of the summer? It's like, no, he was cool because he was weird and awkward and
Right.
mysterious.
Yeah, I don't think Radiohead would have ever made it, I guess, because I can't imagine Tom York actually getting on TikTok.
Yeah,
He would
me neither.
Probably predicted TikTok about 20 years ago.
Oh, he knew for sure.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, that's why he wrote all those doom and gloom songs.
Right,
It was,
exactly.
he was warning us.
Let's talk a bit about your process. So how often do you sit down and write? Is this something that you are really dedicated to? It's like an everyday kind of thing, or is this like I really can only do it when I'm in the right mindset? And where do you write? Are you a go out into the woods kind of person, or are you like you've got a specific place in your house where you have to do it in?
Yeah, so I probably could be more disciplined about it. I mean, you hear a lot of people who say you should be writing a song every day, and for every 200 songs that you write, there'll maybe be like one or two good ones. I don't know if I believe that. I think that's true for some people.
Bad writers.
No, I think everyone has a different process, and probably I'd write better songs if I wrote more, but I think I'm always writing in the sense that I am a deep feeler, and I'm always sort of like collecting stimuli, and I'm always like jotting things down and on pieces of paper and the notes on my phone, and sort of like collecting fragments of things that I think are evocative or I might want to write about. And then almost always when I sit down and write a full song, it's like on my bedroom floor. And it'll be like whenever the feelings surface or I'm feeling inspired. Usually it's like between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. Then I'll sit down and look through all the things I've written down and start playing guitar and piece it together from there.
Okay. Do you sleep at all, or are you kind of like after 2 p.m., 2 a.m., I've got to keep going, and it's,
It's weird. I think
all-nighter?
I blame college. I think that's what did this to me, but I now hit my peak productivity, I think, between those hours, which is unfortunate because I also like to sleep, but it works out if I can sleep in, but it wasn't a good fit with like a bakery job where I had to get
Right.
up at 6 and then it was not good.
Which is why you had to quit, obviously.
Exactly.
Got in the way of the songwriting.
Yeah.
Well, we've not got much time left, but I do want you to self-promote a little bit before I let you go. So, as you said, we've got a Venetian Soda Lounge gig that's coming up on Friday.
Yeah, this Friday, 8 p.m. Tickets are $10. You can buy them on the Venetian Soda Lounge website, or I believe at the door.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll turn you away.
And have you got any other gigs up and coming?
Do I? That's a good question. I don't think I do.
Okay.
I'm gonna play the Jericho Farmers Market later this summer, but I'll definitely try to book stuff in the meantime.
Yeah.
But this week, the radio show in Venetian have sort of had all my focus. But certainly, if you follow me on Instagram, it's at Audrey L. Pearl. That's where I'll like post all my show updates, and if I'm releasing music, it'll be there. So.
All right.
Yeah.
And you can find Audrey on Spotify as well. Just Audrey Pearl. Is that a moniker, by the way? Is that a pen name, or is your first and last name actually Audrey Pearl?
No, it's my real name. It's my mom's last name that she gave to my sister and I.
Oh, well, it's a very singer-songwriter name.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks, Mom. I feel.
Yeah. It's very much a Bob Dylan or an Elton Johnny kind of thing, but an actual real name rather than one that you've just
Are
made
those not their real names?
up. No,
Wow.
for neither of them. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Elton John, I believe, but I didn't know that about Bob Dylan.
Yeah, I can't remember what his second name actually is. Zimmerman, thank you. Yeah, there we go.
That's also a good name.
Yes, it is, but I mean, I'm guessing in the 1950s it probably wasn't
Right,
going to play
yes.
quite as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm lucky.
Yes. All right, we've got time for one more song, so what have you got for us?
I will play She's Holding My Hand, which releases on May 17th. It's next Friday. Cool.
Got no jobs lined up for the summer, not a single long-term plan. We'll just hang on to each other for as long as we possibly can. We're scared of getting older, feels like diving in the deep end. Will we sink or float? I don't know, but I'll jump as long as she's holding my hand. She's holding my hand. In the fall, I'll drop out of college to be a working man. She can get her degree if she wants to, and we'll make that 5-year plan. We're scared of getting older, but we're diving in the deep end. Will we sink or float? I don't know, but I'll jump as long as she's holding my hand. She's holding my hand. We'll take turns watering the garden, never get bored of keeping it alive. If we're both single when we're 45, we'll keep that promise that we made at 9. We'll already have everything we need. I don't care if her perfume is in my sheets. It'll be me and her until the end. Times never get bored of keeping it alive.
All right, Audrey Pearl there, which she's holding my hand. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's been great. And please come back in when you do have an album ready. It sounds
Absolutely.
like it might be on the way. Well, next week we've got Lady Moss coming into the studio, so catch us on that one. But for now, this has been WOMM LP operating at Billington, Vermont, 105.9 The Radiator. It's been The Rocket Shop. I've been your host, Tom Proctor, and good night.
Yay!